We're talking about the relations of the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland is bounded laterally by these muscles. So this large muscle over here is the platysma muscle. So platysma muscle is forming the lateral boundary. Now if we remove the platysma muscle, we can see another muscle which is originating from sternum, the clavicle, and it is going up to the mastoid process. So here is the mastoid process. So arising from the sternum, the clavicle, and going up to the mastoid process. So this muscle over here is the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So the sternocleidomastoid muscle is also forming the lateral boundary. Now if we remove the sternocleidomastoid muscle, uh, we can see another muscle which is starting from sternum and going up to the hyoid. So this muscle over here is the sternohyoid muscle. Now if we remove the sternohyoid muscle, we can see another muscle which is starting from the sternum and extending up to the thyroid cartilage. So this muscle over here is the sternothyroid muscle. So we have seen the lateral boundaries uh, of the thyroid being formed by, first by the platysma muscle, then by the sternocleidomastoid muscle, then by the sternohyoid muscle, and then by the sternothyroid muscle. Now, if I rotate the model laterally, we can see that the thyroid gland is enclosing the trachea. So this here is the trachea, and behind that is the esophagus. So the medial boundary of the thyroid gland is being formed by the trachea in the trachea anteriorly and esophagus posteriorly. And also there is one nerve, the vagus nerve. Now we will see the posterior boundaries of the thyroid gland. So posteriorly we can see one uh, artery, this artery, a vein. So this artery here is the common carotid artery. So this over here is the common carotid, and this over here is the internal jugular vein. So these are forming the posterior relations of the thyroid gland, and between this artery and the vein there's a nerve. So this was the internal jugular vein, this was the common carotid artery, and this a nerve in between the artery and the vein is the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve, the carotid artery, and the internal jugular vein together form the contents of carotid sheath, and carotid sheath forms the posterior boundary of the thyroid gland. So we saw the lateral boundary, the medial boundary, and the posterior boundary of the thyroid gland.